Welcome to the Go One More Step podcast. I'm Brian White. I'm a veteran, I'm a survivor of my brother's suicide, and I'm talking to people about overcoming challenges of all kinds. Welcome, Devon.
Well, thank you, Brian. Glad to be here.
It's great to see you. Great to connect. So for you watching, Devon and I go back a few years of being work colleagues with doing some training, and Devon is a fantastic actor and trainer and developer of people who are getting ready to experience new things. And by way of introduction, Jay, who's been on the podcast, I asked Jay, hey, do you know anybody else who's got a story to tell about resilience? And it is probably the fastest response I've ever gotten on any type of messaging platform. He came right back. He said, Devon. And
Aww.
blew me away. And he said, and I won't quote it because I don't want you to start crying in the first 90 seconds of the podcast.
Yes,
But he spoke incredibly kindly and tenderly and admiringly of your ability to persevere, to demonstrate resilience, and to help others. And he said, Devon has a story to tell. And I reached out, and you very graciously said, yes, I will tell the story. So let's launch from there. What's going on? Yeah.
Boy, I mean, I don't know, like I guess I know part of why he would so graciously say that. And then, I don't know, there's a lot that's happened in my life. So I'm like, not entirely even sure where to begin. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because a lot of people I've talked to, and including Roger, who you know, I came out with that if once you reach a certain age, if you don't have a story of difficulty you've overcome, you've lived a very boring life, and that's kind of a problem all its own.
I feel like you're not human if you haven't experienced something.
And what Jay was talking about was a previous relationship that was the example that leapt to mind. But I also would love to explore, if you're willing, because Jay was very raw and honest in sharing some of the difficulties he's gone through, and hearing your side of that, I think would also be would be very interesting. So take your pick.
Absolutely. I mean, both things, plenty to speak on. So I don't know, where do we start? I mean, I guess the relationship that predicated Jay and I's relationship has had a huge role in making me who I am. Taught me so very many things. And I guess probably Jay and I, when we first started to know each other, I was just starting to come out of this relationship. So I guess right off the bat, he kind of saw that I was dealing with quite a bit that I guess would make him think, okay, yeah, she's got a story to tell about resilience. And
right.
So I guess that's where it starts. I don't know, just launch right into it.
Yeah.
Tell you about
whatever and however you want to tell it, I think is the best starting point. And for disclosure, those watching, I have a very basic outline, but have not heard the tale.
Yeah.
So let's explore it at your speed.
Sure. So I had been previously married, and he was my high school sweetheart. He was a good man, but he dealt with many demons. And in the guise for him of addiction. And it was, I think it's something that I've come to realize that, like, I don't know, like the older you get and the more you see things like the forest for the trees, being out of it, you see
Yeah.
that there was probably a lot more to it. Um, and with him, I think there were things that happened in his life that he was just never able to deal with.
Yeah.
And his answer was addiction. And that was something that he eventually chose over our marriage. But it was, that's hard. It's hard being in a relationship with somebody who's an addict, and it's not only what they're going through, but then your response to it, becoming codependent. And it's sad because, a lot of people too, they don't, when it gets to a point where you have to step out of it. Mm-hmm. And in my particular case, for my own safety, it really felt like it got to that point. You just, a lot of people don't get out of it. A lot of people don't, and it's too late, and they don't make it out. And so I think that that's maybe something that, I'm glad to say I was able to step out of that before it got any worse than it did. But I think the thing that kind of made it especially maybe unique, I don't know, is that I kind of had always had this feeling, and when I was with him, that it was I don't know, I saw him, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me try to back it up here a little bit. His family also knew that it was bad. I mean, he was in and out of rehab, in and out of jail, but when I left, he was still very much trying to mask the fact that he was still using. He wanted to make it about me. So there were some lies that were told to cover it up. But, and this is not to speak poorly of him or anything, honestly, but when it came down to it, and I asked him, what do you realize that you're picking your addiction over our marriage? He just said, yeah, I know the things that I would have to change about my life in order to make it work, and I'm not prepared to do that. And that's all I needed. So it was like, okay, I'm making the right decision. And it was, it was a little less than 4 days after our divorce had been finalized, mm-hmm. that I got a phone call that he had passed away the night before. And I think I was probably the least surprised person, mm-hmm. who knew him. It was kind of the worst. It was the worst feeling, obviously, in a lot of ways. Yeah. But I saw that coming. I had seen that coming. And to know how unhealthy I had been in that relationship with him, I don't know how much more I can make it clear that I think I know that if I hadn't stepped away from that relationship when I did, the timing just being so close to right. everything, the way it went down, I wouldn't be here anymore. I would have swallowed every pill in the house. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like I would have taken my own life. I wouldn't be here anymore.
Yeah, you just from the sound of it, you took a step that a lot of people in bad relationships, regardless of the circumstances, whether there's addiction, substance abuse, people in bad relationships, it from your retelling, there was a moment of really and I don't think the word is exaggerating, really shocking self-awareness from both of you, where you realized you had to get off this ride and yeah. gave them a chance to change the track.
Yeah.
Which that alone
multiple times through it too, multiple times. Yeah. Like, are you sure?
And that alone is a level of courage that a lot of people very tragically don't find. And then his response of, nope, this is the way it's going to be, is a shocking level of self-awareness and acceptance, that in toxic types of relationships you don't hear about. Let me ask, what got you there to take that step that really, from all I hear of basic research, is a level of courage a lot of people never find? And especially, and you use the word codependent, people that find themselves in codependent relationships, it becomes very much quicksand, like the old movies used to teach us to worry about, where they're like, the more you struggle, the deeper you are. And you found this very clear, bright moment of it's this or that, and then stuck to it. And that's a level of bravery that you don't hear about often. Where did that come from?
Well, the hand of God. I mean, honestly, I look back at it myself, and I think about, I think it was a breakdown. I don't know that there was necessarily just one clear moment where it was like this or that, because you're questioning it the whole time. And anyone who's ever been through a divorce, like, you know, like, I mean, the whole time you're going, am I doing the right thing? I mean, there's so many decisions to make too, and it's like if you don't act within a certain time, it has to go this way or that way, and it's just, you know, it's like, you are constantly like reassessing and like, is this the right decision, and revisiting it. But because of the circumstances, knowing that like I had seen, like, it's not just like, you know, we woke up one morning and it was bad, you know, like this has been a downward process for quite some time. And I want to say it was the last 2 years of my relationship with him that really, the landslide was occurring, and just more and more he wasn't who I knew anymore. It was just getting worse and worse. And you know, like, it's scary when you look at the person that you love and they are just, it's like they're not there anymore. And I think in part of that, and this is another reason why I feel like it was the hand of God, it was just so funny because I think it was an act of him trying to get me out of the house more so that he could be using in peace or doing whatever he was doing, that he really pushed me back into acting. And funny enough, he was the one that had sent me the audition notice that was for this little Ninjas versus Vampires movie that was filming over a summer. And he was like, this looks like fun, you should go audition for this, because, you know, it's like you could be out of the house and not bothering me. And so that was when I met my tribe. And I say that because I was getting to that point where I realized how miserable my life was. I saw the things that I aspired for. I loved acting. I wanted to have that more in my life. I started seeing more for myself than my current situation. So I think that was a large part of it. It was like my dreams had kind of died and they were starting to come back to life. And I met this group of people, including Jay, that are like family to me to this day. And if it wasn't for them, I don't know that I could have started to make the decisions and find my strength, you know, to really make the final decisions that I needed to, and really pull out. But I had to also see a direction for my life that I hadn't seen until then.
So at the risk of oversimplifying, which I do very often, because I'm a Marine and so therefore I eat crayons. A couple of the things you said really, really just hit, and I mean hard. The find your tribe, man. Use those exact words on previous videos, and if you use those and shamelessly pandered, well done, because it hit like a ton of bricks. The other is when you talked about, when you mentioned that you saw a way forward. It sounded like you went from thinking you were in a place to discovering you were on a path. And I
Yes.
think that's an
Yes.
incredibly important mental transition. And the fact of finding your tribe and seeing yourself on a path that had a way, a direction, a movement, rather than just this situation, this moment, this place. I personally, when I talk to people and they say I'm in a good place or a bad place, I don't like that phrase. I don't like that connotation of place because it's static. We're all on a path. We're all walking a path, and sometimes it diverges, and sometimes we go this way or that way, and sometimes it's straight and level and nice and paved and easy, and sometimes it's damn near vertical and rocky as hell, and you're gaining 1 foot for every 5 you lose. But it's a sense of motion, and that sense of going from place to direction, I think, is a major switch. And just watching you tell the story, you changed when you made that transition in the story. So yeah, what do you think of that? Did
That makes a lot of sense.
your pop psychology?
No, I mean, like that's very true, and I think it's like I've always seen it as, you know, I mean, there is no such thing as a coincidence. There is no, like, even though to us it looks like, you know, you could have gone this way or that way and you chose this way and that was by circumstance. It's I really don't think that. And I think that that's just because of how intricate the path has been in retrospect. I see that there was a clear direction for my life and I really felt led. I love the analogy my mom uses, that she says it's kind of like when you look at a tapestry and the underneath of it, it looks like a horrible mess, like threads going like it does not look at all like it makes any sense. But above it is this perfect pattern, this beautiful, intricate pattern that was all meant to be. And I see that. I just kind of see that has for sure been my journey thus far.
Yeah.
And of course, Jay being part of this tribe too, he was a romantic light at the end of the tunnel that I never thought.
So some technical difficulties there, such as life of a podcaster living in East Africa. Thank you for rolling with it. So I think the last I had that was clear was you were mentioning Jay as the romantic light at the end of a tunnel, which is a great start point. So let's go.
So that just like, you go through a situation like that, like I had been in, and you can go multiple places. And I've had other friends who have gone through divorces and then afterwards they're like, I'm never getting married again, like, you know. But I'll tell you what, this man was just clearly my soulmate, and I feel like we knew that so early on. But it was something that it was like it's interesting. So, you know, the timing was a little odd when I met Jay, and but you know, I think it was kind of the final piece too that was just kind of like I see a hope and a future for myself, and this man might be part of it, but it couldn't be any kind of a reason as to why I was departing the first. Actually, I knew it had nothing to do with it. It was, but I feel like it's just like, again, the universe just knowing like kind of what you need to push through and to move on in your life. And that was a part of it. It was seeing the possibility of there being a future with him too. That was just like helpful to push me forward. Not a reason, but as I feel like some people could have perceived it.
Yeah.
But again, it was a terrible situation that I was coming out of that I don't say lightly in many ways. But having his family trying to deal with the loss of him and it being so close to our divorce and all of that, I can see why I have a target on my back. But whatever you need to tell yourself to get through the loss of somebody close to you, I guess. I wish all his family well and hope, some of them I still consider family and we still talk, but there are a lot of them that are still very much broken and struggling over it. His mom, like the least of them. I can't even imagine. I mean, now being a mom, I just can't even imagine losing a child. So
that sets up a really nice opening for me to be kind of that stereotypical host / interviewer. I've got a quote, and I've shared this with you from Jay, and it's entirely appropriate to the moment when Jay said you need to talk to Devon about resilience. One of the first things he said was when he mentioned that you had gone through a lot with this past relationship, and he didn't get into a lot of detail. A direct quote that I would love to explore a little more is, a lot of people would have built tough armor around them to protect themselves after a situation like hers, but she hasn't. She loves openly and freely. And the first part is, that's the story you hear. And you alluded to it. People, friends who have gone through divorce, I'll never get married again. Or you've been hurt, I'm never going to open myself to the possibility of that kind of hurt again. And knowing you personally, professionally, and on all sides, I tend to agree with Jay's assessment that you remain very open and free and loving and engaged and open to the possibility of vulnerability. And so I ask, where do you get that from? Where do you find to do that? Because it's rare. And it's something that anybody who's looking and exploring resilience and getting over difficulties of any kind, how do you find yourself back in a place where you're open to that experience that could end in the same kind of hurt?
It's interesting because I'm at a very unique place spiritually in my life right now. So, but I will attest to the fact that the way that I grew up and what I believe as far as God, grew up in the Christian faith. I don't exactly know if I identify that way at the moment, but growing up that way, and I think no matter where I am in my life spiritually, I will say that I believe in God, and I believe who Jesus was, and I believe that the way that he lived his life, loving even when it made no sense to do so, because if we didn't, that would be standing in a place of judgment. And another reason there's been a little bit of a divergence from the Christian church, because it's so convoluted and feels so judgmental. And I started experiencing that when I went through my divorce, which was such a stab in the back, because it was like, these are the people who were supposed to be my tribe, that knew the struggles that we had intimately. We were very open about it. I was going to church with him, but still it was like coming back to, well, the scripture says, divorce, God hates divorce. And it's just like, yeah, he hates it because it fucking sucks. It's bad. it hurts, but it doesn't mean that you do it and then you're damned or whatever. I don't even know, but it just I want to say though that, like, my understanding and my faith and who God is, and the example of how Jesus lived his life, I want to say, is just kind of how I've tried to model myself after, and to stand in a place of non-judgment, and, you know, even of myself, which that's a loaded journey.
Yeah.
But I want to say that's what it comes from, to be honest. I mean, like, I've had a good model. But also, you know, being on the side of being someone who's been so harshly judged and accused of things that are just some of the worst of the worst. I don't know, like, I can't be that person to someone else. I want to be the kind of person that that you know, lives by the golden rule, as crazy and I don't know, old fashioned as that might seem, but, you know, I really believe in loving others the way that I want to be loved myself.
Yeah.
I guess that's really the root of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So personal departure, how heartbreaking is it that we call that we qualify living by the golden rule as crazy or old fashioned?
Isn't that awful?
Yeah.
It really is, isn't it?
Let's do better, humanity. Really.
Exactly.
Another thing Jay mentioned that, and I'm not going to quote, is that a lot of people come to you who find themselves in rough spots, especially in relationships, and you give of yourself very freely, and you help those people. When you're talking to people who are going through a tough time, what support do you give them? What techniques do you offer? What do you say to them to help them get through the same kind of stuff that you got through?
Oh man, geez, I don't know how much of it I would qualify as like a technique. Other than, it's just, I listen, I don't judge, I let them go through the motions and feel the feelings and not judge them for it. And I mean, I think there's a part of it too where when you go through traumas yourself, it's like attracts like. I feel like they kind of, it just kind of comes to me because, you know, it's like I've been in your shoes in one shape or another. Like I know what that's like to a degree, you know. So I think just being somebody who can listen and not judge, and someone, you know, I mean, I will share what's happened to me. I'm an open book, like, on the things that I've gone through, because I feel like that's meant to be used. That's meant to be shared. Why else do we go through these things if not to use it to support each other?
So you find purpose in that, and then you derive. Yeah,
I do.
And that's hugely important. Just the sharing, just the, hey, this is me being low. These are the things I've been through, because a lot of people are not willing to share those moments.
They're not. They're embarrassed by it, or
Yeah.
you know.
And you said nearly 40 minutes ago, everybody goes through some stuff, but nobody wants to share their story first. And first is key.
True.
Yeah. And I'll ask probably a delicate question. No, I'll start with an easier one. When you said you found your tribe,
Yes.
and finding that tribe of acting and telling stories, and that really helped you to find and see that you were on a path, not in a place. And then, of course, there was this guy who also happened to be pretty interesting. How much of that tribe was them directly helping you, and how much of it was just knowing you had a tribe? Like, how many times were there deep conversations? How many times was it just being around like-minded people?
I mean, that in itself is huge. But I think also in that same vein, other people too who are willing to share their traumas to help you realize that you're not alone. And that was a big part of it. You know, it was a huge part of it. and we helped each other through these traumas together.
Yeah.
It's not just what I was going through when I met them, like they had their each their own things that they were dealing with. And so we were able to really just kind of band together in that way and heal each other. Actually, it's funny, like one of them I was having a conversation with my friend Daniel last night. And he was one of those people that I met that day that is now like part of my tribe and a best friend, and somebody who was going through quite a bit at the same time. That was different, but like us just kind of acknowledging in each other, like when we were talking, like we both helped heal each other by just being able to be there and be open and honest about it. So there's that.
I got a tougher question. You
Yes.
mentioned like attracts like, and with profound gratitude to you both, Jay was very open and honest when we talked about a lot of the stuff he's gone through. I would love to hear your perspective on what he went through and how he got through it, and how you helped each other to get through it, because we have to stay right away. I'm so glad to have this conversation, because Jay, if I had only had the conversation with Jay, it would have felt like Jay went through this, and
Yep.
that was the world. But this was you and Jay going through
Together.
the difficulty along this path together. So this is a really unique opportunity. So I'd love to hear your side of it.
Yeah, let's add the other bookend for sure.
Well, not the other bookend, like the shoulder to shoulder walking the difficult portion of the path.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have to say too, it's kind of like looking at the two situations and putting them together as far as what I had been through in my previous relationship and how different it is from this one. That the first one, he was not willing to do what he needed to do to make things better. And it ended the way it did. I wanted to say before I launch into this amazing man, Jay Saunders, that between my first relationship and where I am now with Jay, the difference is in the first one, he did not want to change, and situations, the cards fell where they were going to. Jay, since I have known him, has been somebody interested in growth and betterment, and I just respect the hell out of him. The fact that he will see a thing that he wants to change or make better, and he'll go above and beyond to do so. Yeah. So whereas he has his demons, as we all do too, being what they are, he's at war. Like he'll fight, because and that's just, there's a night and day difference. I just kind of wanted to point that out as like the overall encompassing nutshell first, in my opinion of the difference and where we are. But like with Jay,
to your evolution, I think, where seeing that difference and not ending up in the same situation again.
Right, exactly. Like I have to see it that way, right? Dealing with just being that person to be there to scoop up your soulmate, your loved one, when they're going through literally the hardest time of their life. We kind of met where I was going through the end of that other trauma, and Jay was like my angel. And I mean, honestly, I know that, like, and I've told him this before, and this is whew, he's a big reason why too, where I feel like I am still here, and our path together is something that has always been meant to be, and to do life together. And so no matter what it is that he's going to be facing, I'm going to be right there next to him, because he's also been that one for me too, from the get-go.
Yeah.
So
At the risk of going like full Hallmark, and you've seen versions of this circle the internet a number of times. No partnership is 50-50 all the time. There's 80-20 days, there's 90-10 days, there's everything in between, and it all flip-flops. And the key is figuring out where each of you are on that day, and whichever of you has the wherewithal to boost it back up to 100 to make up for the one who's at
right.
30-10 on that day is the key. And it sounds like you found that. And just knowing you two off camera, it really does look like you found that.
We're very blessed. But that's not to say we don't work very hard at it every single day, and things can change moment to moment so quickly. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So here's the easiest question of all. What's the trick?
What's the trick? It's so easy.
When you're at 10 and he's at 20, and as a couple, you have to get to 100.
Mm-hmm.
What's the trick? Where do you find it? How do you get there?
Hey, humbleness, a willing to speak up and say, I'm going through XYZ, and communicating that to each other. I mean, it really is a lot less. It sounds not complicated, but it is obviously incredibly challenging, and more so for others than, some people than others. But like, it's just that open line of communication and being willing to say, hey, I'm feeling this right now. Need a little extra support. That's hard for people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and in the training world, I often say that easy and simple are not synonyms, despite the fact that we think they are. And the simple answer is just what you said: communicate and say, hey, I'm at a 10 today, and here's why. That's simple. It's not by any measure easy, but it's so critical. It's so critical to just say it, and that's why these discussions are so valuable to me and to the tens of people who are seeing them.
But sorry, this is making a lot of noise.
Yeah, no worries.
There we go.
But it really is like, if there was two things I could say to anybody who asked about perseverance. One is break it up into tiny chunks that hence go one more step.
Exactly.
And get through the day. If the day is too big, get through the hour. If the hour is too big, get through the minute. Break it into what you can. And then a second is, oh my God, people, let's normalize saying I'm not okay right now. Because I'm not okay right now doesn't mean I'm fundamentally broken.
No.
That.
Not at all.
And it's an opportunity for our tribe to be our tribe. And there is nothing more rewarding than a member of the tribe letting you help them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So final thoughts. Let's capture it and bring it home, and then a chance to shamelessly self-promote. If there's somebody who watches this and you want them to come away with one message, maybe they're having a tough time, maybe they know somebody who's having a tough time, what's your message?
I would say your tribe exists.
Love it.
They do. And if you honestly start searching them out, you will find them. And don't be afraid to be open. Do not be afraid to show your scars, because they're beautiful and the world needs to see them, because you know what? You earned them. Your tribe exists. And for heaven's sakes, if you feel like you don't have one, here's two people I think you could talk to for sure. It would be helpful and sort of leading you in a direction, because we don't go through these things for nothing. and your tribe exists. So please seek them out and be ready to just be open and honest about it. That's it.
Love it. And now the shameless self-promotion. Your link's going to be below you. What do you got going on? What do you want people to check out?
Oh, always. Jay and I, we are Man in the Arena film production company, and we would love for you to check out our YouTube page and see what we're up to, because we are very passionate about film and what we're putting out there, and very excited about a project that our passion project is called Ithaca. That is a kind of an evolution of things, and bigger and better things to come. We also have a feature that's we're going to be filming next year. That's probably going to be in spring. That's in pre-production, a feature length. So we are very excited about that and can't wait to tell you more.
Cool. Devon, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing, for being so open and honest and vulnerable on this. Incredibly valuable and incredibly inspiring. You two are awesome. You are an amazing couple. You're an amazing human who is part of an amazing couple. Thank you so
As
much.
another amazing human. Thank you so much, Brian. We just adore you and adore our friendship. So thank you.
Soon we will meet for craft beer again.
Can't wait.